What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Spandau Ballet, and we're returning to the 1986 album Through the Barricades, though I think this is the remastered version. Thank you again to Phil, as well as to Han Solo for providing the Spandau material before that. But the next track is Fight, is it with ourselves? Oh, Fight for Ourselves, which is a notably different meaning. Notice how a preposition can change things very substantially. But yes, Fight for Ourselves sounds like standing up for what you believe in, or for your friends, your allies, your movement. And given the concept of barricades, it feels like we are again in a realm where lines could be about conflict but also cohesion, where there is figurative meaning down on the individual human level but extrapolating on up to large-scale geopolitical events. But yes, fighting for yourself suggests you have no outside assistance. There is no state or military or organization that is fighting on your behalf, and you are left to do the difficult combat, or at least figurative struggle, on your own. And of course that can be more challenging, and perhaps is by definition, and yet there is perhaps a suggestion that it can be more rewarding because you're not relying on anyone else, you're not leaving your fate up to someone outside yourself or to the vicissitudes of destiny more generally. So yes, there is an empowerment in the phrase, even if there is already an implied sense of adversity, conflict, or potential danger. So let's see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Spandau Ballet. The track is Fight for Ourselves, and it's from the 1986 album Through the Barricades. Wow. So, in one sense, musically, it felt a bit different than some of the other tunes in their catalog more generally, or even on this album, in that the chorus had these sharp, almost like stab-like melodic flourishes. The keyboard was a bit forte and, it wasn't flowing and long and melodic, but more intense and fragmented. Even the guitar in that section felt, again, like it was these melodic stabs. Now, eventually, as we got into the second half of the tune, and as always with the saxophone work, the more typical Spandau sound came through, and again, let me just give them credit for championing the saxophone more than a lot of other groups, even if the sax was much more notable in a lot of musical discographies back in the 80s than it is now. I certainly feel like Spandau was pushing that angle more than most other groups at the time, and as a big fan of the saxophone, that is all good in my book, and I feel like it's sort of a cheat code that is maybe getting me to enjoy this phase of the Spandau journey more than some other folks did at the time or even in retrospect. But yeah, so lyrically, I actually had a problem hearing his vocals as clearly as I have in some of the other tunes. What I did catch, it sounds like he's talking about the human condition as a whole, but individually, and saying, we're all out here with our struggles and our difficulties, and, we're in these big city lights where, people can crash and burn or, find adversity. But it sounds like he's also suggesting that people can take inspiration for each other or from each other, and even if you don't quite know what to do, maybe seeing other people fighting for themselves can give you the impetus or even clarity as to how you can do that yourself. Either way, it sounded like there was hope and optimism within the center of the theme or the tune, even if he is fundamentally talking about having to fight and difficult journeys and places where you can face troubles and pushback and, find it difficult to find your way. So, yeah, it felt like it was an optimistic tune given the bits that I heard, though again, there were a number of lines where I was catching them only in part, so I don't quite know what's happening lyrically or narratively, or, maybe more in terms of scene painting. But it sounded like it was talking about humans in their individual struggles, but then extrapolating that to a larger framework to maybe even view things more optimistically and positively, which I suppose is built into the title, Fighting for Ourselves. You're making reference to multiple people pushing forward, trying to achieve some measure of success despite adversity. So, yeah, ultimately an interesting tune sonically, which again in some ways was very on par for them, and yet in other ways felt a little bit different, in particular the chorus. And again, have these vocals, they just have this soothing sound. Sometimes he goes big and dramatic, and I know like some people have different views about when he hits those kind of moments of delivery, but I think in some of his lines, the way he just swoops across the melody, it's like this very comforting type of delivery, and I felt that here. So ultimately, another cool tune. I'm enjoying the album once again. Shout out to Phil for sharing this, as well as Han Solo for sharing the other Spandau material. Let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.